Barnaby Jones, starring Buddy Ebsen, also starring Lee Merriweather, with guest stars Pippa Scott, Murray Hamilton, Richard Anderson. Tonight's episode, Fatal Flight.
Hey, Bill? Bill! Yeah? Phone call. Who is it? I don't know. Just ask for Bill Claymore. Okay. Hello? 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 Warmed up, Dan? Yep. She's all set to go, Mr. Gordon. Say, Mr. Gordon? Sure you don't want me to fly you up? No, thanks. Keep my hand in. Hey,
They hung up. Who was that in the phone, a man or a woman?
I don't know. It was such a lousy connection, I couldn't tell.
Huh. Well, I'm going to call the wife. See if she's trying to reach me.
Yeah.
Longfield Tower, this is 7835 Romeo. Request permission to taxi to runway 35 left.
35 Romeo, cleared for takeoff. Pretty sloppy takeoff.
Imports from the Far East will cause any serious problems. One area needing reappraisal are the short-term bank loans, totally unnecessary in view of higher interest rates. With your permission, I'll put out feelers on how receptive the financial boys would be to a convertible issue at this time. No, thank you.
Gordon started using this type of communication with me when I took over as board chairman. I have to wade through about 16 pounds of reports a week. So I was grateful to have Gordon consolidate his own on tapes. We're coming to it now.
Just one other item, Bob. I won't bother you with speculation at this point, but tomorrow I expect to confirm what may be a very delicate situation in the towers. I'll be at the company lodge for the weekend. Call you when I get back.
And that's it. Expecting to confirm what may be a delicate situation in the towers. Mr. Jones, I haven't the faintest idea what he's talking about.
Well, Mr. Drexel, what did he mean by the tower?
The executive suites in the Drexel building. It's possible, Mr. Jones, that this is simply a coincidence. Ted Gordon crashing that plane into a mountainside the same day he's delving into a company problem. But Gordon was an excellent pilot. I can't believe that he was careless.
I saw the preliminary FAA report. They seem to think that he tried to fly across that mountain range at too low an altitude and got into a downdraft.
They think, but they don't know for sure. Of course, Gordon may have had a heart attack,
Or there may have been foul play. Somebody may have tampered with the airplane.
that's what I want you to find out. Where do you intend to start, Mr. Jones?
Well, I think the logical place to start would be in the tower. I hope I don't step on too many VIPs' toes.
Yes?
I've moved the board meeting up to the 5th.
I think 2 weeks is a suitable mourning period. All due respect to Ted. Drexel talked to you about this man, Jones?
Briefly. We're supposed to give him our fullest cooperation.
I don't see why our own security people can't handle it. Yes?
Mr. Jones is here, Mr. Balford.
Show him in.
Well, he's already in Mr. Gordon's office. Well, he asked for that office, and when I pointed it out to him, the door was open. He simply went into it.
Ask Mr. Cassidy to join us there. We'll get this over with in one shot. I don't want Jones wandering around these offices wasting everybody's time.
Hi. You know, times really change. I can remember when a company used to be in just one business. But you people are in the construction business, power business, airplane business. You know, I think today a company has to have about 20 other companies attached to it, all doing different things.
It's called a conglomerate.
I know. You know, when I was a boy, and probably when you were a boy, Mr. Balford, I'll bet you that word wasn't even in the dictionary.
I don't think we've ever met.
Oh, Barnaby Jones. Oh, you mean, how did I know your name? Well, your picture was in the annual report. First vice president. And Miss Harley, Mr. Gordon's executive assistant.
I see you've done your homework.
Well, it saves a lot of time. Oh, Mr. Cassidy, I'm Barnaby Jones.
Yes, I know. Is there some way I can help you?
Well, I'll try not to take up too much of your time. I just have a couple of questions. Mr. Gordon's tape recording, he said that he thought that a very delicate situation existed in the tower. Could any of you throw any light on that?
Mr. Drexel has already spoken to us about that tape. I'm afraid we can't help you.
Oh. Well, you had an appointment with Mr. Gordon at 10 o'clock the morning before his plane crashed. Do you mind telling me what that appointment was all about?
Where did you get that information?
Right here, out of Mr. Gordon's appointment calendar. 10 a.m., Balford, 3 p.m., Cassidy. And here's one, CG at 12:30. Was that a luncheon appointment, Miss Hartley?
What?
CG, 12:30. You recall anyone with those initials?
I wouldn't know.
My meeting with Gordon was about that annual report. He planned on studying at the company lodge.
Our meeting was about the same thing. Now, if you have no further questions, Mr. Jones, I have an awful lot of work to do.
Well, yes, I just have one more question. Mr. Gordon crashed his plane about noon on a Saturday. Would it offend anyone here if I were to ask what each of you were doing on that Saturday?
I believe I took a drive.
And I was shopping most of the day.
I don't know where I was. Mr. Cassidy's very impatient for a man in charge of research, but maybe that's what it takes.
We'd all like to get on with it, Mr. Jones.
Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Balfour. Miss Hartley?
Drexel subjecting us to this kind of thing.
We do have to admit it was strange. Gordon flying his plane into that mountain.
This is what's left of the automatic pilot.
Do you have any evidence that would pinpoint a cause of the accident?
Our agency's investigated quite a few of these types of accidents. In this case, our conclusion of pilot error is more than justified by the sloppy plane handling right from takeoff.
Sloppy in what way?
Well, according to the controller, the tail almost hit the ground.
What would cause that?
Trim tabs adjusted wrong, insufficient speed for takeoff, overloading of the luggage in the rear, among other oversights.
How much luggage was he carrying?
None at all. Just a briefcase.
Do you have the briefcase?
We released it a few moments ago to the Drexel people. Their pilot has it.
Probably charred, whatever he was carrying. Ah, just some burnt papers.
Yep. Be interesting to read.
How can you do that?
They got ways to bring the print back. Mr. Claymore, you serviced Mr. Gordon's plane the day he crashed. Did anyone touch it before you turned it over?
No. Not from the time I gave it a ground check. Oh, Foley called me to the phone, but I wasn't away from the plane maybe a minute or so. It's a bad connection, party hung up.
Thanks. Yeah, I've been noticing you packing your chute here. You belong to that skydiving club I've seen a little way out of town?
Yep, I'm one of those crazy bunch.
Oh, no, I wouldn't say that. I admire you guys. Very cool. You take that long free fall, wind up in a circle, holding hands. I'd like to see that sometime. Getting ready for a jump?
First thing tomorrow morning if the weather's decent.
Well, don't be surprised if you see me there. Hey, there's something hasn't changed, has it? Still basic.
Well, not always. Maybe it's time for a change. Now, here's a new wrinkle being developed by Mr. Cassidy. Now, it's just a prototype. We're still working on how to contain it. You see, a jumper depends on the air they're falling through to open their chute. Now, would you mind stepping back a little bit? Now, watch this. Something like this would permit low-level jumps.
Yeah, that's really something. Split second, the chute's full of air.
Yeah, Mr. Cassidy's still tinkering with it, as he likes to say. You know, that's how he started with the company, as a research engineer.
Hey, by the way, the FAA said that Mr. Gordon's takeoff wasn't everything it should have been. You know anything about that?
Well, no, I was in the hangar on the phone with my wife. Hey, Dan, you saw the takeoff, didn't you? Tail dropped a bit. No big thing.
Didn't seem unusual to you.
Well, it happened. Could have been a crosswind.
Can you get me a chopper and a pilot?
Oh, sure. Looking at the pilot. Cut my teeth on him in Vietnam.
You mind flying me out to the crash site this afternoon?
No problem.
Happy landing.
Jones has a briefcase. I don't know. He took it before I could get my hands on it. Hey, listen, I don't feel too good about this around here. Jones is running around asking a lot of questions. Now he's going out and look at the crash site this afternoon. I didn't get a chance to get my hands on it. Jones just went at it like a bird dog. Gonna have to name a little higher figure for that kind of work.
direction does Mr. Gordon start out in? Well, we're on the same heading. That's Gable's Pass directly ahead of us. Now, there's a private field about 30 miles north of that range. And the lodge is about 20 minutes more by car. And Gordon must have been underway about an hour. Yeah, just about. Now, we're at the point where he had to make his turn in order to end up at that mountain. Let's make the same turn. Right. Just about down there. Mr. Claymore, I noticed a little clearing back there where we made our turn. You think you can set us down there? Yeah, I think I can handle that.
Where are you going?
Noticed this piece of cloth in the tree as we came down.
It's like a piece of parachute.
Looks like you did a little misjudging.
I bet he landed here. Huh?
You go that way.
Yeah, here.
I'll bet you one thing. He didn't walk 40 miles out of this forest. Here's our transportation right here.
Somebody waiting for him, you think?
Not necessarily. He could have parked the car here before he jumped. Betty, have you got your measuring tape?
My constant companion till I get that living room redecorated. Here.
Why don't you take a few pictures of the tire treads while I do a little measuring? Pretty narrow track. You know, at first I thought my theory was a little far out, but somebody did land here.
There's a lot of skydiving going on in these parts. Do you think that could explain it?
Any jumper would try to hit that clearing. Be taking an awful chance for the sake of the sport. Take a close-up of that.
Still at it?
Yeah. Want to take a look?
Please. Oh, very good. Figures are sharp and clear.
I'd settle for more figures and less clarity. Was Bernie able to do anything with the pictures?
Yes, he said that the pictures, along with your measurements, indicate that the car's a dune buggy. And he drew a sketch of what the tread should look like. It's a left rear wheel with a long gouge running right along the tread.
Pretty distinctive. But I'll be able to do something with that. Now, the first thing tomorrow, I want to check the members of the skydiving club, see what they're all driving. Then maybe we ought to take a ride out to the field and talk to Dan Foley.
That Drexel mechanic still bothering you, isn't he?
Yeah, I keep sticking in my mind. Why was he so nervous when he was talking to me? I always pictured skydivers as being a sort of a breed, cool, no nerve.
You look awfully tired. Why don't you stay in town tonight?
Exactly what I'm going to do.
buggy, 703 IHJ.
It's Daniel Foley, all right.
It is. Better find Mr. Foley.
Oh, you just blew it 10 points! Yeah, right on, baby!
San Antonio, right?
What?
Don't I know you from San Antonio?
I've never been there.
Yeah, the Sky Rover Club. You were one of the girl jumpers 8, maybe 9 years ago.
Oh, I think you're mistaken. I doubt that we've ever met.
But you sure are a ringer for it. Hey, listen, I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Okay.
Wow. That's a new approach.
Harley? Cassidy?
Oh, Mr. Jones.
I didn't know you were interested in skydiving.
Well, just a recent interest. I assume you're here professionally?
Yes, some of the jumpers are using equipment designed by our air safety division.
So I understand. I've been reading a lot about Drexel Company lately, some of it very complimentary to you, Mr. Cassidy. I understand you developed much of the early patent.
Mr. Jones, is there some purpose to this conversation, or is this just merely chit-chat?
Merely chit-chat for now. If I have any questions, I'll call you during business hours.
Well, Mr. Jones, so I understand that you're trying to reconstruct those burnt papers from Ted Gordon's briefcase.
Strange you should say that. Somebody else seemed to be interested last night.
I've heard about the process, but I've never seen it. Any luck?
Some.
Well, our laboratories could help you if you want.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Cassidy. I've practically got the job done.
All right.
Doesn't tell you much, does he?
Maybe he's got nothing to tell.
I don't see Dan Foley around. You jumping today?
He's the last one out. He's coming around now.
Thanks. Foley's the next jumper.
Barnaby, is there any chance that whoever shot at you could have nothing to do with this case?
Anything's possible.
But if it was Foley's buggy that picked up that jumper at the clearing, our little talk should be very interesting.
Just watching gives me butterflies.
Cutting it pretty close.
Get it open!
I'll take those papers, Mr. Balfour.
What are you doing here?
Possibly looking for the same thing you are.
You have no right to read that.
I think I have as much right as you do.
You don't understand, Mr. Jones.
I understand enough to suspect that Dan Foley had something to do with Gordon's plane crashing. Oak Ridge Sanitarium. Bill is made out to Clete Balford. You have a drinking problem?
Might call it that. Attempted a drying out period. Something I'd been keeping from the company. Foley found out about it, got his hands on that record,
and he was blackmailing you. Well, you don't have any more problems about Foley. He died this morning.
I heard.
Did Gordon know you had a drinking problem?
He was ready to recommend my dismissal to Drexel.
Well, there's a pretty good motive for your wishing him dead.
Ridiculous.
Not so ridiculous. Foley was blackmailing you. For a few dollars more, you could have hired somebody to stow away on the airplane, see that it crashed, and then parachute out.
That's a lie.
Weren't you the one that originally recommended Foley for that mechanic's job?
He blackmailed me into it. All he wanted was a job. Later, it became $1,000 a month on the side. But I didn't kill him, or Gordon.
Didn't you, Mr. Balford?
Jones, if you're looking for someone with a motive, Cassidy had a psychotic hatred of Gordon.
What does that mean?
Drexel International was a one-cylinder operation trying to meet a payroll when Cassidy joined the company. It was his research and developments that made us what we are today. But Gordon took all the credit for himself. Don't look to me for motive. Talk to Cassidy.
I take it you don't like Mr. Cassidy.
I find myself no longer liking or disliking Mr. Jones. You put in 15-hour days trying to keep up with a growing company. Find you can't. What do? Say I don't want my big house, my imported car, my country club. Do you admit you can't cope? Or do you look for a crutch? I found mine. How I fought it. Then Gordon gave me the ultimatum. I began fighting for my very life. Still am.
Hard enough to murder 2 people, Mr. Balford.
Would Mr. Gordon have kept a personal file on unrelated business expenses?
Oh, not that I'm aware of.
How far back can we go on these restaurant charges?
Well, the accounting department would surely have a file for the entire year. Should I get it?
Oh, yes. Would you please? Thank you.
CG. Isn't it odd that Gordon would write down Balford and Cassidy's names to remind him who he wanted to talk to that day, but used initials to indicate his luncheon companion? Check into the memo pad and see what other lunches Gordon had.
Here, June 19th, lunch, F.I.
Yeah, the restaurant charge slip there for that day.
Here we go, June 19th. He had lunch with Thomas Carrington.
Thomas Carrington. It's T.C., not F.I. What's the name of the restaurant?
Firelight Inn. Firelight Inn, F.I.
C.J. is not someone's initials. It's a place.
Oh, I believe they were coming here for at least 3 years. Always for dinner, though, never for lunch, until that one day last week.
And you really think they had a romance going? Wasn't just business talk?
Oh, my, yes. You run a restaurant as long as I have, you get to know the signs. The little smiles, the laughter, the gentleness of Mr. Gordon.
Miss Wilson, have you any idea why they broke up?
No. I certainly remember the last time they were here, though. More than a year ago. Neither one of them even touched their dinner. The lady was trying very hard not to cry. And Mr. Gordon was very apologetic. I remember thinking, what a shame that they were breaking up.
You make nice arrangements.
Oh.
That's the last time you saw them until Friday at lunch.
Yes, I was quite surprised to see them again. And I thought to myself, why, how nice. They're back together. Till I realized they were very angry with each other. There.
That's very pretty. Thank you. Miss Wilson, did you overhear Mr. Gordon and the woman? Were they angry about business dealing?
I really don't know what the quarrel was about. They kept their voices very low and very bitter.
Is this the lady?
Yes. Yeah, that's her.
Our relationship was none of your business, Mr. Jones.
Miss Harley, 2 men have already died under strange circumstances. I almost became the third, but there would have been nothing strange about a bullet.
It doesn't surprise me that you have enemies.
You could have saved me a lot of trouble by telling me it was you Gordon had lunch with that day.
That was personal, Mr. Jones.
Out at the field, you told one of the jumpers you'd never been a member of the San Antonio Skydiving Club. It was simple to check out. You're due a lot of congratulations for the number of trophies you've won.
You misunderstand that in my position, I had no desire to renew certain old acquaintances.
I understand that, but there are a lot of things I don't understand.
Balford already told us you believe there was a stowaway on board the plane that day. Why don't you go to the police with that theory?
Because that's all I have is a theory. A motive is what I'm looking for.
And now you have my motive for killing Ted Gordon. Our affair on the rocks, his refusal to marry me.
That's very interesting, Miss Harley. I didn't know that Gordon had refused to marry you. What was that lunch all about?
He wanted me back. On his terms. Still no marriage, but in its place stock options. Like a common... Well, perhaps not so common, but equally degrading. You say we argued over lunch that day. Argue is a mild word. I could have killed him. Right there at the table. And now, if you excuse me, I'm already late for a meeting.
You ought to be careful where you're going, Mr. Jones.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Carr. And listen, enjoy the rest of your vacation. Right. Bye-bye. Barnaby, I finally located the lodge caretaker, Mr. Carr, with something very interesting. Didn't you tell me that Gordon was due to arrive up at the lodge around 1 o'clock in the afternoon?
That's what we estimated.
Oh, well, Mr. Carr said that Gordon phoned him and told him to expect him around dinner time, 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock? Wonder what Gordon expected to be doing for those 7 hours.
Well, I asked Mr. Carr the same thing. He said that he felt that Gordon was going to make a stop by Drexel Records building, which is about a 20-minute drive from the Lincoln Meadows airfield.
Records building?
Mm-hmm. It's a computerized center. You push a button and anything that Drexel International is involved in comes out in a few seconds.
According to those tapes that Drexel played for me, Gordon was trying to confirm what he called a delicate situation in the tower. Bet he'd call the towers and tell him I need a plane.
Well, it'd be quicker to call the airfield directly.
Oh, no. Call the towers. We need a little publicity. Tell him I need a plane to fly me to Lincoln Meadows Field, and then I want a car waiting for me to drive me to the records building.
Barnaby.
If anybody was worried about Gordon getting there with these figures, you ought to be doubly worried about me getting there.
Oh, ready to go whenever you are, Mr. Jones. Expecting someone else?
I'm not sure. Can you give me a couple of minutes?
Oh, take your time.
Mr. Jones, do you mind some company?
Plenty of room.
I heard you were going to visit our record building. Reminded me that I haven't seen it in a while. I wonder if Bill is ready.
Yeah?
Good. Something the matter?
Nope.
Go.
You executives travel in mighty fine style.
You don't, I mean, you're not nervous my coming along, are you, Mr. Jones?
Should I be?
Whenever you're ready, Bill. Well, strange things happen on aircraft. Like, well, the door opens at 10,000 feet.
Mr. Cassidy, I figured you for a lot more imagination.
Whiskey cleared for takeoff. How about a drink?
Not for me, thanks. Mr. Cassidy, isn't it true that you disliked Theodore Gordon?
No, I didn't dislike him. I despised him. He took credit for all of my ideas and my talents. He tossed me fancy titles like you toss bones to a dog.
Second vice president of Drexel International doesn't exactly sound like throwing bones to a dog.
It's all relative, isn't it, Mr. Jones? Cheers. Now, Tell me, have you eliminated me as your number one suspect?
Not entirely, Mr. Cassidy. Life is full of surprises.
You know, I have a theory about all this, Mr. Jones. I don't think that Gordon was murdered. I think you've taken a series of coincidences, added 2 plus 2, and have come up with 5. And to prove that, let's take a look at your briefcase.
That's not possible, Mr. Cassidy.
Of course it is, Mr. Jones. Something wrong here. We're not due to that field for half an hour. What is this, sweet?
I have that gun, Mr. Jones.
Janet!
Sit down. Buckle those seatbelts. I hadn't planned on you being along, Frank.
The first time worked so well, Miss Harley, you figured it earned another try.
Janice, what are you doing?
All those years I've been living on promises just like you, Frank. But I had nothing to fall back on.
A woman scorned. Murder does seem a little extreme, doesn't it?
Oh, you know perfectly well that wasn't my reason for killing Gordon. It was his life or mine. I'd have gone to prison after he had those records checked.
Janice, we're losing altitude. We're on a glide path right to those mountains.
Now I'll have that briefcase, please.
Actually, Miss Harley, there's nothing in the briefcase that would interest you.
Slide it here. Slide that briefcase to me. Frank?
I'm gonna offer you some advice. Don't do it.
But I have to. I've been living a nightmare. Getting rid of Gordon, finding Foley's chute. I haven't been able to sleep since he's been asking questions.
Buddy, you all right? Yeah, I think so.
But where's the data? Those figures?
Miss Harley, I showed the figures to Mr. Drexel, and he agreed that so few would have been no help to his accountants. You were almost home free.
Oh.
Total loss is expected to be about $1.5 million. Mr. Gordon's signatures were all forged by Janice, of course. The payment's going directly to the bogus mining exploration company. And that's it. Disbursements for non-existent field work. Janice Harley cashing the checks and building up a tidy bank account.
Nobody questioning Gordon's signature with Janice handling the details.
Any questions, Mr. Jones?
Yes, I have a question for Mr. Cassidy. But before the question, I'd like to congratulate the new president of Drexel International.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Now, what is your question?
Well, sir, that day out at the power plant where I almost got fried by the high-tension wires, it's quite a coincidence to look up there at the catwalk and see you standing right about where the wires parted.
Right.
Tell me, was that an accident?
Mr. Jones? That's just what it was, pure and simple. An accident.
That's what I figured.
By the way, Mr. Jones, I understand you're a fanatic on fishing. We have a trout lake by the lodge with action you won't believe. How about joining me tomorrow?
Lake trout?
Let's make it 8 in the morning.
You have got a date.
You're going to love this place. I'll have a plane ready for us.
Mr. Drexel, I bet it's a nice drive up to that place. Why don't you let me pick you up in my car at 8 o'clock? Because frankly, I have had all the flying I need for a little while.
Barnaby Jones, a Quinn Martin production, starring Buddy Ebsen, also starring Lee Merriweather, Mark Shera, with guest stars Robert Reed, Catherine Justice, Anthony Gary, Anne Lockhart. Tonight's episode, Death Beat.
Like he might jump before you get to him.
No way. This guy wants to go on camera. That's why he called us. Come on. Jim?
Get back!
Okay, man. Okay. This is DeWitt Robinson on the Vincent Thomas Bridge in San Pedro. The man you see on that ledge is Jim Anders. Called us on the KBX hotline. Told us his intentions. Seemed to be reaching out. Like he wanted somebody to stop him. Jim? Jim, we want to help you. I don't know what a reporter can say to you.
Nobody asked you to say anything.
You want us to listen, is that it?
Yeah, why not? Nobody else will.
What's the problem? You have trouble at home? Your wife? Girlfriend? Lose your job? Are you hooked on something?
Let me speak to him. Father Moore. Keep it on, keep it. What's your name? What's his name?
Anders, Jim Anders.
Jim, will you give me just a minute? Look, whatever you're selling, I am not buying it. There's an answer, Jim. There's always an answer, no matter what's bugging you. There's got to be a better way than this. Come on, talk to me. Hey, Jim, as lousy as it is, there's always something worth talking about. There's got to be somebody who's going to miss you. How about it? You married? Isn't there a girl somewhere? Mother? Father? Who is it, Jim? Who do you care about? Get him away from me! Take my hand, Jim. I promise you, there's an answer, one you can buy.
Hold it. Longer. Okay, now hold it one more beat. Now.
I wonder what we had to do with this. I mean, if we hadn't have been there, maybe it wouldn't have happened.
If we don't cover the news, somebody else will. Nobody asked that priest to interfere.
Tell me something, DeWitt. If you stay in this business long enough, do you ever get used to it?
Maybe you have to. What's the running time on that? 3:57.
Robinson's reports, cutting room. Yeah, he's here. DeWitt, it's the hotline. They're putting it through.
Maybe take that timing sheet up to the control room, will you? Yeah, DeWitt Robinson.
It's me, Jim.
Hold on. Steve, is there any coffee around here? Sure. Newsroom, huh? Stuff tastes like it was made by Dr. Jekyll.
Right. It'll do wonders for you.
Jim, you made it? You all right?
How can I be all right? We just killed a man. A priest.
Are you sure? Did you see a body?
I didn't have to see him. Why didn't you stop him?
How was I gonna do that? Hey, Father, don't worry about the guy on the bridge. There's a little manufactured news for the 6 o'clock report.
Well, that would have been a lot better than what happened.
It was an accident.
DeWitt, you can't run that film.
Gotta run it. Everybody knows I've got it. Why wouldn't I run it?
I'll be recognized.
Sure, you'll be recognized. You knew that beforehand. That's why you can't go home. You find yourself someplace to crash at the marina. You shave your lip, and I'll see you at the foot of the South Jetty at 9 in the morning.
You damn well better see me now.
Look, I've got a newscast to do. I've got a press club dinner tonight that I cannot get out of. Now, don't sweat it. I'll take care of everything.
Can you take care of the priest?
Hey, I mean, maybe he's all right. You made it. Maybe he did, too. Jim, trust me. Okay? I'll see you in the morning.
Mr. Jones, come in.
Thank you.
Did you see the police yet?
My associate is down there now.
I hope they tell him more than they told me.
They haven't recovered anyone from the water yet.
But it's been 15 hours, and Jim hasn't been at his apartment since I got into town. I've knocked on his door so many times, the landlady's daughter thinks I'm some kind of a nut. Oh, Mr. Jones, I'm a nervous wreck.
Maybe we better get right over to the TV station. The screen in the projection room is a lot bigger than a television set. You could probably tell for sure whether it was your friend that jumped off the bridge.
I just can't believe he'd do it, Mr. Jones. Especially not after he wrote me about how well he was doing out here.
How did he sign the letter?
All my love.
Well, now, any fella that signs a letter that way isn't thinking about jumping off any bridges.
Okay, I guess you're right.
Ah, we might find out something.
Hi.
Oh, this is my associate, Jedediah Jones. I have to warn you, at the very first opportunity, he'll ask you to call him JR.
Hi, I'm Wendy.
Hiya, Wendy. How are you? They found Father Moore's body outside the harbor entrance, but there's no sign of the other guy, Jim Anders.
Jim Wills. I tried to tell the police that.
Well, they're just going by what he was called on television.
When he called in on the hotline, he used the name Anders. Now, the question is, why would anyone contemplating suicide bother to lie about his name?
That's right. He wouldn't, would he?
Confess to the police? You out of your gourd? That's not gonna bring the priest back.
It'll get him off my head.
Sure. You're gonna mess up 2 other lives, man, yours and mine.
How do you ignore something that you see every time you close your eyes?
Hey, give it a little time. It'll go away. You'll forget about it. Look, I owed you 500. Here's another 500 on top of that. Okay, it's not gonna make you forget, not right away. But a grant's gonna go a long way to getting you back to Columbus, back to, what's her name, Wendy, huh? Wouldn't she rather have you free in Columbus than here in the Slammer?
She's not in Columbus.
Wherever.
She's here. Look, I called back home last night. I had to talk to somebody, and you weren't available. They said she flew out here. She wanted to surprise me.
Oh, that's some surprise.
Well, she probably went to my place when I didn't show up. Well, there's no telling where she is now.
The worst that happens is she flies back to Ohio.
Not if she saw me on the news last night. What if she thinks I'm dead?
Okay. Okay. I'll find her. Come on, I can do that. I got contacts on the hotline. Only you just keep your problem to yourself. Here, come on.
All right. Find her.
You gonna cool it?
Here's where I'm flopping in Venice, under the name Wilson.
Wait a minute. You gonna cool it?
If you don't take too long.
I don't know what a reporter can say to you.
Nobody asked you to say anything.
You want us to listen? Is that it?
Yeah! Why not? Nobody else will.
What's the problem? You have trouble at home? Your wife or your girlfriend?
Oh, my God.
You lose your job?
You're absolutely certain that's Jim?
Are you hooked on something?
Yes, it's Jim.
Mustache must be new.
Father Moore.
I could tell it was him just by hearing his voice.
What's your name?
That's all we need, thanks.
Jim Anders.
That'll do it, Fred, thanks.
None of this makes any sense to me at all. Look. You see, read the part where it says he's been getting some work.
Apparently he figured might lead to some acting jobs on television. Pictures, maybe.
Well, it certainly doesn't sound like a guy with no future and no hope.
No, it certainly doesn't. Thank you, Miss Price.
Listen, there's something else that I think you ought to know about. Jim was on the diving team when he was in college.
Oh? High board or low board?
Tower. He used to even pretend like he was doing a comedy act, you know? He'd pretend like he was falling, and then right at the last minute, he'd cut the water just like a knife.
Then you think the idea of his selecting a high bridge to end it all just doesn't track?
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
Steve, grab a camera and meet me in the parking lot, quick. I'll explain.
Girlfriend and detective.
We can catch them before they leave the parking lot.
Hold it, Libby, not so fast. Why?
DeWitt, just think. A grief-stricken girlfriend, a dead priest, a fake name. That's the kind of story the network will pick up on.
What fake name?
Anders. The girl ID'd him as Jim Wells. And it gets better. She won't believe that he's dead. He was a high diver in college. Is this a ticket to the big time or what? DeWitt?
Yeah, you go get him, Libby. I'll be there in 2 minutes.
First off, I think you ought to take a ride over to Jim's apartment. Hopefully he had some nosy neighbors who might be able to...
Mr. Jones! Mr. Jones! Oh, I'm so glad we caught you.
Miss Milliken, we'd like very much to interview you for tonight's broadcast.
Me?
It's all about Jim, who he really is, how you came out here to be with him, and all about...
Please, I really don't think
I
that...
think an interview at this time is a little premature.
Okay, Libby. Got it. This is Wendy Milliken, who came here from Columbus, Ohio, to be with a man named Jim Wills. Miss Milliken, you saw our news broadcast last night, and you recognized the man on that bridge as your fiancé?
Yes. No, I mean, no. Look, I wasn't sure.
Excuse me, Mr. Robinson, but Miss Milliken's been through an ordeal. I don't think you want to add to her grief, do you?
Who are you, sir?
Barnaby Jones, private investigator, hired by Miss Milliken to find her fiancé.
Mr. Jones, what's happening here is news.
I don't want to interfere with your First Amendment right to gather news, Mr. Robinson, but there is no news here yet.
But of course there is. Miss Milliken, I understand you refuse to believe that Jim's suicide attempt was successful.
Look, it wasn't a suicide. He wouldn't do that.
Look, no interview. Isn't that what you were just told?
He was a high diver, wasn't he?
Listen, I don't think I'm explaining this clear enough. You see, the young lady is worried about someone she loves and doesn't need a microphone stuck in her face.
Okay, Steve, that ought to give us enough for broadcast.
That's just about all you care about, isn't it?
Hey, Libby, you're on the ball, kid. This one ought to give us enough to milk for days. We play our cards right.
Barnaby, do you remember Cloris LaRue?
You mean the stripper with the snakes? Or what I read in the newspaper?
She used to live here.
How do you know?
I dated an actress here once.
Singers, actors, dancers, okay. But snakes, no way.
So you mean you just kicked Cloris out?
Not me, my mother, the manager.
When's the last time you saw Jim?
I haven't seen him since yesterday morning. But so what? I've stood up before.
You had a date with him?
Last night, he was supposed to take me to Le Chevalier.
Fancy schmancy. That's $70 a throw, isn't it?
It was to thank me, he said. I toss him a little salad and spaghetti when he has the shorts, you know. He's so grateful.
Struggling young actor, lands part in pictures, is that it?
He's more into stunts, I think. He's very athletic.
When did he give up acting?
When his acting teacher recommended it.
You know who that teacher was?
Let's see. Archer, Archette, Arche, silent T. French.
A-R-C-H-E-T, Arche. All right, I'll get right on it. Barnaby, are you planning to go into the theater?
I will if it's necessary to find out about Jim Wills.
Oh, Barnaby, Wendy called. It seems DeWitt Robinson phoned her, wanted to finish out that interview. She tried to say no, but...
How long ago was that?
Just a few minutes. Listen, I'd really like to know how he found out where she was.
He impresses me as the kind of a fellow who would find a potato bug in a bean barrel if he thought there was a story in it. I think Wendy needs us.
Wendy, what about the letter he sent you?
Oh, he said he had some work.
Why do you think he told us the exact opposite?
I don't know.
What kind of work?
He didn't say.
Wendy, if he did survive, as you believe, why do you think he hasn't come forward?
Well, maybe he's hurt or dazed or something.
Or hiding?
Why would he do that?
Afraid, maybe. Thinking he was responsible for the death of Father Moore?
But the priest grabbed him. How could that be Jim's fault?
That would depend on exactly why he was threatening to jump in the first place. You insist that he wasn't suicidal. Why then? Was it a publicity stunt?
Well, Barnaby?
This would be Barnaby Jones again, private investigator.
Are these folks invited guests?
No.
Then why don't we invite them out?
She opened the door for us.
It's still open. Why don't you use it?
What kind of camera is this, anyway? This is a zoom lens, right? Come on, these are really difficult.
All right, Steve, Libby, that's it. Well, off the record, do you think he's still alive?
Off the record, no, but we're going to find out.
If you do, will you give me an exclusive?
Well, I've got one. How about an overly ambitious news hog who gets a trespassing rap laid on him if he ever pulls a stunt like this again?
Miss Milliken, you refuse to believe that Jim's suicide attempt was successful, is that right?
Look, it wasn't a suicide. He wouldn't do that.
No interview. Isn't that what you were just told? No
All right,
interview.
cut it there. Take him out completely, and Jones, too. And that new stuff, when it comes back from the lab, cut around both of them.
It's super footage, DeWitt. Too good for the locals.
Hey, wouldn't it be a trip if he was alive? He sees his girl on TV all choked up over him. Phew, that'd sure smoke him out of the woodwork.
Yeah, you're not kidding. Well, you go ahead and make the cuts. Be right back.
I hope he does it. Sees the broadcast, turns himself in. You think he'd get a year or two? 'Cause, I mean, that Wendy's a nice girl.
And you're romantic.
Yeah, this is Wilson. Where the hell have you been?
Locating your girlfriend, as promised.
You found Wendy?
I will have. By 6 o'clock tonight.
6 tonight?
6:30 at the latest. It's a sure thing.
Okay. Just call me right away.
Yeah, but you're gonna have to answer the phone a lot quicker than you did this time. Where were you?
Oh, I'm on the 3rd floor. The only phone is in the lobby.
It'll probably be while we're on the air with the news. I can only be on the phone for a few seconds at a time.
So I'll stand by the phone.
Well, look, between 6 and 6:30. Don't get impatient. You stay in the lobby and close to the phone, okay?
Right.
Now, you students certainly know what a rose is. A rose by any other name would smell as sweet. Listen, darling, please. Now, try to think of yourself as a beautiful, pink, fully opened blossom, not a bloomin' ragweed. Oh, well, I'm sorry, darling. Perhaps we should think of some other little flower. How about a nice, bright little yellow daisy? Would you like that? Marvelous. Over there, darling.
Mr. Archer?
Well, well, my dear sir, I'm not often privileged to hear my name properly pronounced. As a mark of my appreciation, I'm waiving the usual charge of admission.
Thank you. We appreciate that. My name is Barnaby Jones. This is my associate, Jedediah Jones.
Jedediah. Well, it's certainly a pleasure to meet you. And I can certainly use a young man of your talent. Jedediah. It's rather hard to keep young leading men, you know.
Like Jim Wills. I'd like to ask you a few questions about him.
Private investigator, eh? Well, I'll tell you anything except that he was a good actor.
Is that why you advised him to go into stunt work?
Oh, come now, Mr. Jones. It seems to me you've already done some investigation.
Some.
Well, Jim is very physical, of course, but you don't just go into stunt work.
You mean jobs like that are hard to find?
Well, he mentioned recently someone who was very good at opening doors.
Any idea who that may have been?
I had the impression it was a television person, someone of rather substantial influence. No, no, darling, a bright little yellow daisy. Excuse me, sir. She's the girlfriend of one of my backers. Now, darling, it's simply a matter of concentration.
Now, Barnaby, what television person named DeWitt Robinson do we know in this case?
Maybe we just don't know him well enough.
Ah, shucks. And just when I was beginning to like not seeing him.
Well, Jedediah, sometimes you have to wade through the hog wallow to get to the melon.
Well, I'll put on my high boots. Hello. Yeah.
Hotel Brody, room 843, 9 o'clock tonight. Got it?
8:43, 9 o'clock. I'll be there.
Out here.
Where's Wendy?
She's not here.
You promised me that she'd be here.
Well, that's before I found out Wendy hired a private detective to find you, man.
I should have known better.
It's a temporary delay. It's temporary. And I'm telling you, that private detective is digging in pretty good. You got to get your story straight.
My story?
All right, we're both on the hook. Here. Take a look at that. That's $4,000. I want you to play one last scene in front of my camera.
What kind of scene?
I want you to play the same scene you were supposed to play before. Only this time you tell him it was a performance on that bridge, see? Father Moore believed it. All right, now you got such a case of the gills. This time, you're gonna do it for real. Without any water to land in.
Just tell me where Wendy is, man.
Look, this time I talk you out of it.
I'll find her myself.
Wait, but look, they'll understand. All you're gonna get's probation.
Get out of my way!
It's too late. It was all on the air. Everything tonight.
What was on the air?
Your real name, interviews with Wendy, everything. Except the deal with me. Now look, Jim, it's all set up. We can do it this time.
No. Get out of my way!
56219. Libby Price. Libby, I just heard from Jim Wills. He's at the Hotel Brody in the roof garden. Says he's going to try it again. Yeah.
#1 in the news market. That's where DeWitt Robinson's hotline put us. Sorry, it's the only chance I'll get. Sure you fellas won't join me?
No, thank you.
Mr. Monahan, how long has the hotline been in existence?
Oh, let's see, at least 5, maybe 6 months since DeWitt talked us into it. $50 cash for any news tip we use on the air. A regular viewer would know that.
Guess you found me out.
That made him into kind of a hero, didn't it?
Saved his job for him. And may get him a spot on a national show out of New York.
Mr. Robinson's stories all been on the sensational side, haven't they?
Yes, they have been lately, starting with the terrorists who blew up the abandoned power facility.
Oh, yeah, I remember that about a month and a half ago, right?
The hotline didn't pay off during the first few months, did it?
Right. Caught on just before option time.
Mr. Monahan, I wonder if you could supply us with a list of the stories that Mr. Robinson's hotline generated, along with the dates.
Well, I think I'd have to know why, Mr. Jones.
Kind of like to see how they stack up against the activities of the young man that went off the roof garden last night.
Jim Wills? You know what you're suggesting, manufactured news. That's a very serious accusation.
That's why we have to be sure before we make it. Kind of figured that you'd want to know one way or the other, too.
I'm very grateful to you, Betty. I really needed somebody, and you were there. Thank you.
Listen, if you'd like me to stick around for a while, I'd be more than happy to.
It's okay, thanks anyway, but I am really whipped.
Well, you have my number.
Yeah. Oh, Betty, why did this happen? I just don't understand any of this. I've got a whole life to replan, you know? And I just can't seem to do any of it until I find out what it was that happened.
Wendy, I'll make you this promise. Barnaby will never stop until all of this is explained.
Okay.
It's gonna be fine.
Wendy, Jim asked me to talk to you.
Jim?
Jim Wills was obviously very disturbed on that roof. He asked me to tell Wendy how desperately sorry he was. But he kept saying, if it hadn't been a priest, if it hadn't been a priest. Was Jim a religious man?
He respected life.
Yes, he respected life. That's why Jim Wills was so tortured a man.
And that's why he didn't commit suicide. He did not commit suicide. Do you hear me? He didn't have it in him. I don't care what you say. He didn't.
I was there. I tried to stop Jim Wills on that roof.
I can hear you trying to stop him. Don't jump, Jim. Don't jump. Not until you've told us your whole sad story. Oh, and turn your head this way a little bit so we can get your good side on the camera.
We can all understand.
Well, why don't you just get out of here?
Why don't you put that one on the air, huh, Robinson?
Kill it.
Libby, I dropped by your station to see you. They said you were here.
You were right. I thought you came here to rescue me.
Well, I did, but you didn't look like you needed it.
Did you see the anchorman?
Monahan, yeah, I think we're on the right track. And I blew my little intimate interview with Libby the way I just came in here just now.
Oh, I kind of liked it myself.
Did you forget something?
To apologize. Sometimes DeWitt gets carried away. I'm really sorry for everything.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Jones, I thought you'd be finished asking questions about Jim. Now that he's not missing anymore.
I'm going to keep asking questions, Margie, until they're all answered, especially about his work.
His stunt jobs?
I not only want to know the nature of the job, but when he did it. Now, I compiled a list here in hopes it'll jog your memory.
Explosion, fire, robbery. Such dangerous work. Makes you wonder why.
Did he ever mention anything about a fire? About the 3rd of last month?
My memory. Can I tell you about my memory? The worst. Lucky we don't have to rely on it. I keep a journal.
A diary?
No, a journal. You know, my thoughts, feelings, character sketches. Whenever I meet somebody interesting. You're in it.
You want to be a writer, is that it?
John Boy started with a journal, didn't he? Here's what I have for the 3rd. The 3rd wasn't exactly what you call one of your banner days.
Shall we move along to the 4th?
Oh. Jim knocked on the door. It was 2 in the morning. He asked if there was any salve in the house. There was a burn on his hand.
Will Wendy be heading back to Ohio right away, do you think?
I don't know. She didn't say. Were you ever around when Robinson took one of his hotline calls?
Not lately. Do you think she'll talk to me? I mean, woman to woman. Wendy. Say, who's the reporter around here anyway? You keep answering my questions with questions. Why are you so interested in DeWitt?
It's my week for collecting jerks.
Is that what you want me to say? That he's a jerk? All right, he's a jerk.
Present company accepted, I hope.
Mr. Jones.
Sorry, but I have to borrow your friend. Something came up on the Wills case. I have a job for you.
Is that urgent?
I think so.
What can I say?
Yeah, we both have a lot in common. We're both slaves to our work.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get this straight. Now, you say your name is Marjorie Hall and you're a neighbor of Jim Wills. Oh, I see. You're the landlady's daughter. She left you a letter? Confession? Confession to what? What happened on the bridge? I see. Well, yes, I'd like very much to look at the letter. I figured there'd be a price. What kind of money are you talking about?
Oh, I don't know. How's about $1 million?
Well, that's pretty steep. Take me a little while to raise that kind of money.
No kidding. You could have fooled me.
Well, I'll try. But in the meantime, don't sell the letter to anyone else.
Libby, get me DeWitt, quick.
Oh, well, look, when he gets back, just to tie him down, lock him in his office, anything. I've got to see him.
Hey, Bobby, who's got more money than the network, huh? That's right, nobody. Yeah, so squeeze him a little. Yeah, but don't blow the deal, okay? Yeah, right.
DeWitt. Oh, I'm glad I caught you.
Hey, Libby, just in time, grab a glass and I'll give you one guess.
DeWitt, New York's come through with an offer.
My agent's negotiating the deal. Cheers, babe. Johnny said you had something hot. What is it?
Yep.
Jim Wills left a letter. It's a confession of some sort about what happened on the bridge.
Left it where?
With his landlady's daughter, Margie Hall. I don't know what it's about, DeWitt, but it sounded pretty important, and it has to be something that you can use tonight when you wrap that story.
Yeah. Well, you did the right thing, babe. Really on the ball. Yeah. I'll handle it, okay?
Well, don't you want to know how I found out? DeWitt?
Right, hold your horses. Oh.
Margie Hall?
You win first prize. Who wants to know?
DeWitt Robinson.
Well, been reading an awful lot about you lately.
All right, if you're talking about the letter, let's get at it.
Letter? What letter?
If you don't know, baby, forget about it.
Come on. Word do get around on it. Are you making an offer?
I might be interested.
Could be worth a lot.
Depends on what's in it.
Judge for yourself. That's a copy, of course. I made it down in my local friendly neighborhood drugstore. Girl can't be too careful in matters like this, huh? Did he spell your name right, honey?
The man was in the wrong business. He should have been a comedy writer.
What are you saying? This is a fiction?
Of the bad pulp variety.
Yeah, I don't know. It looked like a confession to me. I mean, at this late date, why should the guy lie, huh? I figure the police are gonna think that.
A man in my position is always vulnerable to this kind of slander. And I find it less damaging in the long run to pay off than to fight back. You understand that?
Seems like a reasonable attitude.
Yes. And how much is reasonable? And how fast do you think you want it?
Barnaby.
He went for the bait.
Bet he did okay?
Yeah, even though Marge wasn't crazy about the impersonation, she got the job done.
Where is the payoff gonna be?
By the monkey cages at the old zoo.
I think I know where that is. What time?
This afternoon, 4 o'clock.
All right. Will you get things going? Okay, good enough. Talk to you later.
Rotten business, isn't it?
Yours or mine?
Both. You set me up, and I set him up. It's just that I could have stopped him, but I didn't.
And you shouldn't have. Livy, look. The fraud that Robinson perpetrated on the public is nothing compared to the crime he committed against the name of every TV newsman in the business, including you. I mean, he's responsible for the death of Father Moore, if not Jim Wells.
How did you know that I wasn't in on it?
Well, you would have been at Margie's place waiting for him. If you thought you had equal billing in that letter. Come on, we better go.
We?
Well, you don't want another station to get a scoop on your own story, do you? You're a reporter, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
And that's the final Robinson report on the short life and tragic death of Jim Wills. In fact, the final Robinson report you'll be seeing locally on this station. Beginning Monday, will be seen a half an hour later on the network news originating from New York. This is DeWitt Robinson, and that's a wrap.
I want to thank you, Charlie, for letting me tape in advance. I had to stick around and do that live. Never made the play.
No problem, DeWitt. I'm just sorry this will be your last show here. We're going to miss Robinson's report, not to mention the ratings on our 6 o'clock news.
Yeah, well, you'll come up with something.
Well, good luck in New York, DeWitt.
Thanks, Charlie.
Over here.
Stupid place to meet. Why'd you pick it?
I watch a lot of television.
Come on, let's get it over with. And I want the original.
So do I. If you get my meaning.
All right. That's it. We're through. You understand that, Miss Hall. Finished.
Yes, I do believe that is the word for it, Mr. Robinson. Finished.
Robin! Don't try it, Robin. Don't try, Robinson. Robin! You're under arrest, Robinson. Suspicion of murder.
By exchanging the money for what he believed to be an incriminating letter, TV news personality DeWitt Robinson has verified his part in the planning and execution of fraudulent stories.
You're still on the ball, aren't you, Libby? Oh, I taught you pretty good, huh?
You were wrong about one thing. I don't think I'll ever get used to it.
Oh, sure. For old time's sake.
Lieutenant.
All right. What am I gonna say? You want me to tell you that the news at 6 o'clock isn't real? Oh, hell, it's real enough. We just dramatize it a little for you, that's all. That's all. We don't want you to tune us off. We edit, we select. We go out on a bridge when somebody's gonna jump, because you want to see it. Nobody wanted that priest to die. Jim Wills agonized over it more than I did. That's why we were dancing around on the roof garden of that hotel, but I don't have to tell you that. You were there. You saw it. Living color. Last night, you saw it. You make up your own moral. Because I'm tired. It's DeWitt Robinson. And that's a wrap.
Well, we know that wasn't a fake.
But I'm afraid that
Jim's feeling for me was.
Not according to our friend Margie. Oh, he liked her, all right, but she said that his mind was always on you.
He knew I was in town. Why didn't he try to find me?
Because DeWitt kept him from it. His biggest concern was for you, Wendy. All he wanted was to take his lumps for the accidental death of the priest, find you, and start over.
Are you really sure about that?
I just talked to DeWitt. That's why I stopped by here. Thought you'd like to know.
Oh, I did want to know that. Thank you, Libby. I guess I can go home now, Mr. Jones. I think I'm going to be all right.
I never doubted it for a moment.
Aw.
Well, wouldn't you know it? I forgot to ask my cab to wait.
Well, now, I think I just happen to be going in your direction.
What direction is that, Jedediah?
South, west, north, whatever.
Out, you two.